Yields can go up 24% in a matter of weeks, is their claim. They're being featured on CNN.com and Bloomberg by, once again, providing farmers in the field with mobile information about the real-time performance of all the critical inputs and outputs on their farms. Big data is also helping other dairy farmers like these guys who are buying the Holstein bull, the Badger Bluff Fanny Freddy, great name, bit of a mouthful, because already in 2004, this now 9-year-old bull, before it was even produced, the USDA knew that it was going to be the most productive bull in the United States by having the most milk-producing offspring of any bull of its kind. 9 years later, based on the DNA analytics, this predictive analytics has come true. It already has 346 offspring who are the most efficient, most productive cows in the United States. This predictive analytics based on data is now being used by farmers in the field. And this technology is now also used and available for us mere humans as well. For example, via 23andMe, I can now tell that based on my DNA, I'm 2.8% Neanderthal. For those of you who thought it was a higher percentage, let's have a conversation afterwards. For $99, I can get a DNA reading telling me what diseases I might or might not suffer in the future, and once again helping me and my girlfriend, who's a gynecologist, make smarter decisions even about the offspring that we're thinking about in our family. This is not just about cows and bulls, but also about human beings taking matters into their own hands. So what does this mean for the farmer? Well, increasingly the whole supply chain is also digitizing for them. It's now not just farm to table, it's also farm to iPhone. Because we can now scan the meat products that we buy in a shop and have a visualization of the entire supply chain through digital traceability. This again gets the consumer to make smart decisions about their values, their diets, and the farmers that they connect with, not just face-to-face, but also interface to interface. When I recently went to McDonald's in Australia at the international airport, and I scanned my chicken McNuggets, this is what came up for me. You can see the chicken McNuggets here. There's a barcode here to scan, a QR code, and it tells me about the chicken story. It tells me that the chicken's name was Colin. Not quite. But it does tell me that Daniel Edge is the farmer in Carbrook, Queensland, who's farmed chicken for 7 years and supplied McDonald's for 1 year. This, at the point of sale, connects me straight through the entire supply chain back to the farmer. And this is increasingly what the consumer is demanding, which means that the farm will increasingly need to be digitized to ensure that that traceability continues through the supply chain. Let me give you just one example of this before I launch into my third argument here today. This is the New Zealand brand in a related industry, in the textile industry, of Icebreaker. Icebreaker provides sports apparel. They compete with the likes of Patagonia and REI. And what they do is that they provide sports apparel built on natural fibre, based on the merino sheep that are so famous in New Zealand. But the really cool thing when you buy an item from Icebreaker is that you can scan the barcode in the back of the neck of the item. And this barcode, or as the New Zealanders like to call it, the barcode, gives you, again, a connection with the farmer. It links you back via geolocation and geodata through the whole supply chain, so that when you think about the garment that you've just bought, well, you can find out either in the store or once you've bought the item exactly where it came from, offering you full transparency about the process of the farm and the farmers that were responsible for producing the natural fibre that went into your particular garment. Another good example of why the digital age and the analog age can converge and come together is the state of Bavaria in Germany. The state of Bavaria, some of you might know for their very silly hats, their weird leather pants, and the amount of dancing that they do after they've had a few beers on Oktoberfest. This is the traditional view of this industrial farming region in Bavaria, Germany. However, 15 years ago, they decided on their economic future. They came up with a brilliant idea of converging the tradition with technology. What did it look like? Their economic policy, no bull, in the Bavaria of Germany, which is like the Texas of Germany. You're Bavarian first and foremost, and then you're German. Their economic policy, Laptops und Lederhosen, i.e. laptops and Lederhosen together. They are now the fourth largest, biotech center in the world, while retaining traditional technology, traditional industry, traditional farming cultures as well. The two are not mutually exclusive. And I think this connection of heart and head, hands, health is something that the agricultural economy gets. And we need to do more of it, just like 4-H. If I said Google to you, would you think more digital or more analog? Many of you would probably say more digital. It is a digital disruptor, right? Yet in a moment of marketing brilliance, here's their latest marketing move, telling us that the future of communications is all about digital AdWords via a printed analog voucher received via snail mail. Do you see the irony in this? They are a digital company born digital, digitized to the core, extending something out to the world to connect with real human beings via something we can touch, because we've never been able to call Google. This is what they're doing. When every other retailer in the technology space went pure play digital, think mass customization, Dell, etc., back 10 years ago, Apple went the other way. They looked at the customer service touch points and the client touch points of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in New York and asked themselves, how can we bring in a concierge? How can we have a bar in the Apple environment to better connect with real human beings? As a result, they have the highest sales per square foot in the United States, with Tiffany's a distant second, I should say. Easy to say if you're Swedish. This is clicks and bricks. They're not mutually exclusive. And today, even in our digitized future, the consumer still wants to connect with a real human being. Yes, we might be able to buy our food via Walmart, via Safeway, etc. But farmers' markets are growing exponentially. Yes, off a low base, but it brings the farmer and the real human being back to the core of the transaction. Even beer, and I know we're in a center or the heartland of American beer culture. Well, microbreweries have come back. Why? Because we crave the local. We crave the local context, knowing who made our beer. This is still critical as you think about how you connect with your clients. And it's not just a hipster or a yuppie trend. Do you know how much local fresh produce Walmart stocked in their stores last year? Was it 2%, 10% or 5%? 10% last year, and they're aiming for it to be 20% by 2015. Once again, they are committing on a mainstream basis to the idea of having local food. So it's not just a hippie trend. My fundamental belief here is that technology can enable tradition to live on. Even the idea of branding began in agriculture. Brand comes from the Old Norse brander, or to burn. Of course, comes from cattle. Yet many of our products are now commoditized. And I would love to see a future where Growmark and FS and your brands are able to go back to premiumification because you're able to connect both in the digital world and in the analog world. This is not impossible. We can look to an industry like water, a commodity for many of us, yet a scarce commodity at that in the future. But we love buying the stuff when it comes on bottle. In fact, some of us pay up to 10,000% as much per milliliter as we would if we had it out of the tap. And a lot of the bottled water, of course, is tap water. But through clever marketing, through clever digital and analog marketing campaigns, things like Fiji water are now able to command a premium in the marketplace. They never told you the baboons peed in the water, by the way. So where does this leave us? Where are some concrete examples and applications of this? Many of us remember this from the Super Bowl, Paul Harvey's beautiful resonant voice set over beautiful photos from the American Midwest. The beauty of this advertisement was not just that it was shot and displayed for 30 seconds during the Super Bowl, but the fact that it got digitally amplified via YouTube and got 17 million views nearly just recently. But also the fact that farmers around the country started remixing this. And I know you've done something similar at Growmark, showing you how something like Ram's idea here can be digitally amplified by taking something that is deeply analog and digitizing it. We're going to introduce you to this matrix in just a moment, getting the idea on the x-axis that we have the analog and the digital, and that they can play together with traditional modes of marketing, but also with new modes of marketing. I'm going to take you through 3 quick examples before I invite our guests up to speak to us as well. The first example is one of a client company of mine in Europe that are thinking about how can they engage the next generation of farmer via digital communications. How do they merge analog and digital?
Hey, young farmer, care for a challenge? Good. Just to warm you up, what's this? Could it be or maybe well, this time it's an award. An award that can be yours as long as you keep your mind open. Never stop seeking new solutions to old problems and are willing to change old patterns. Now, we created Vardestad Award to encourage a new generation of innovative farmers. That's why we are looking for you who have the smartness and energy to push the limits further. And further and further. Our vision is to gather young Europeans who believe in smarter farming. Together, we grow a network through which we can inspire each other to develop a bright future for farming. So, if you have an idea that may improve farming business, you just have to participate in Vardestad Award 2013. Now get right to vardestad.com to apply yourself or nominate a friend. See you!
So the first example here, of course this was released via YouTube, etc., but it's been a huge success by having an award and digitally amplifying the news about this award. Young farmers from around Europe who's going to be thinking about their next purchase of capital equipment are turning to this company because they want to introduce their ideas and have them shared, and also to create a social network of other farmers across Europe who are like-minded and are thinking innovatively about the future. Another example from a different industry, I do a lot of work in the Midwest with a particular pharmaceutical company here. What they found, and they're in the men's health product space, let's call it that. What they find is that when they go out and see busy doctors, just like you see busy farmers, when they combine the best of old school brochures with an iPad and they let the doctor also play with the iPad, they find that they're more likely to prescribe the drugs, that the doctor will seek more information about their particular branded drug, and that many of them will request a sample of that drug as a result of what I call a very digi-log encounter with the sales rep. Think about how you could do something similar. Now, before I wrap up, it will be unethical of me here as a Swede not to talk about IKEA for just a moment. IKEA used to be the biggest publisher in the world of a single volume, the IKEA catalogue, which I hope some of you subscribe to support the Swedish national economy. We need it. But what they do is that they produce more of these than the Gideons produce Bibles in the world. This is a pretty impressive marketing move from IKEA. But they're not just going pines here, they're also going pixels. And what they're doing today is that they're combining the best of the old school. They're not throwing away the analog baby with the digital bathwater, but they combine the analog printed page with a digitization of what the item could look like 3D in context. So once again, when you're dealing with your farmers, have a think about how could we take our brochures and our sales materials and maybe enable them to come alive. Maybe it's a video of the agronomer or the agronomist or the specialist in that particular seed to give them a bit of a preview via the mobile brochure as well. And you can see Swedes love taking their steroids, very strong little kids. But this gives us a digital layer on the physical context around us, introduces us to the digilog, as it were. And what IKEA has done here is that they made sure that they're not throwing away the analog baby with the digital bathwater. They combine the best of tradition with the best of innovation as they move forward. Let me wrap up. I started this presentation by talking about this beautiful little kid called Max Harpham, who's able to hear because of a digital innovation. But it's not just the digital innovation that is profound, it's also the likes of the charity here, the Shepherd Centre, because what the Shepherd Centre provides is therapy for families who have kids who are profoundly deaf. They also provide coaching for the teachers, enabling the teachers to be more articulate, so that kids can also lip read. And they make sure that Max, before every year's swimming carnival, that he's able to tweak his hearing implants so that he, as the only kid, can hear underwater. It takes human beings to digitally amplify technology. The competition is, as we're going to hear from Dale shortly, is still going to drive up the driveway. But we need to digitally amplify our encounters and have more of them to make sure that we're more productive. Here are the final three messages from this session. Firstly, everything is digitizing. Decide what you will and what you won't digitize in your communications. Secondly, use digital data to make smarter decisions and help your clients use data to optimize inputs and outputs. And finally, remember that we have digital minds and analog hearts. Offer informational value to digital minds, to our rational minds, and also experiential value to your clients' enduringly emotional hearts. Some of you might ask me whatever happened to my mum's little store in Stockholm. Well, we digitized my dad, who's a retired colonel in the Swedish Army, which is a good career move because we never go to war. Although he has fought next to Americans in both Afghanistan and Kosovo with NATO. But he's now retired, which in a family business context, as you know, knows that he's really free labor now. So we invited a bunch of students, and you don't need IKEA's budgets to do this, but to digitize the beauty and the history of this 97-year-old store to mobilize the content for a next generation of consumer. This particular story, this digitization, was picked up by the major Swedish newspaper SvD Nyheter and then tweeted and Facebooked around the Twitter sphere to make sure that Mum had her 2 best months of sales in 10 years. Now, I cannot prove the correlation, right? But I have a strong gut feel, and there is some data to support that this had something to do with it. So the final words here from my dad, and you don't need to speak Swedish to get the gist of this.
Den slipsknut som jag nu ska knyta kallas för four in hand eller universalknuten. Den blev faktiskt nästan perfekt, för de här blev nästan likadana.
He's so proud that he gets the two lengths of the tie nearly perfectly even. And then he goes, "Son, and I did it on live television." Ladies and gentlemen, I want to encourage all of you to think about these changes around you, these disruptions, not as the end of business or the end of your identities as we used to know them, but rather as an opportunity to get out there and to get a feel for the underlying currents of change, to work out exactly where the analog and digital sweet spots are, and how you as businessmen and women need to position your brands effectively to make sure that you not just find these digital disruptions disruptive, but that you adapt with them, and that you're safely able to come back to shore in a way where you position successfully in the hearts and the minds of tomorrow's customers. Thank you very much.